Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Elevate. My name is Jessica.
My name is Darwin.
Welcome back. Hi, Mr. Dad Gang.
The D's for Darwin.
I like your hat.
Thanks.
You know, as I was watching our podcast for our previous episode, I realized there were some points that we were missing.
Oh, really?
Yes. So let's just
talk about it.
Let's just talk about it because, you know, there's different sides to the struggle of millennials. And one of the things we didn't talk about was the parenting struggle as a millennial.
For real.
And in this case, I was thinking about, oh my God, I didn't talk about the struggle that us millennial parents have in regards to what we're feeding our kids. It's such a stressful task.
Dino nuggets. For real.
Now these days. Because, again, the excess information and, you know, the different, the vegan people, the pescatarians, the keto people.
The social media moms that be like, oh, I packed my kids' lunch and they have broccoli and fruits and their dairy and their yogurt. And
they have, like, this perfectly packed lunch for their children. Like, the pressure can be, I feel like it's greater than ever.
For real. I mean, for me, I feel the most pressure with like social media.
In terms of what you're feeding your kids?
Yeah, some parents just be like so good. And I'm like, bro, Zena just asked me for like ice cream and mozzarella sticks.
and not even that. Like when we try to enforce, I guess maybe, you know, sometimes I feel a little guilty that maybe I wasn't so stern when she was smaller or when both of them were smaller, like in terms of, well, first of all, I wasn't working from home all the time. So basically by the time I would get to pick them up, it was really late in the afternoon. And we really didn't have those days where it was like we had so much time to like prepare this elaborate meal. Yeah. We were mostly just like on the run all the time. Sometimes my mom would help me with like meals if she had cooked something and we would take it home. Like every day was just like a struggle to like get ready for the next day.
I mean, and we also did not eat like that. So it's like to drastically change, hey, like make our kids eat. I'm just going to keep saying broccoli because it's the healthiest thing that comes to mind. Broccoli, and like we over here, we don't even eat it. It's like, is that really?
But, you know, like when they're really little, I've heard people say like you need to get them used to eating this way when they're really small, because then once they start getting bigger, obviously they start getting pickier because they know what's on their plate, and they start choosing and picking and choosing what they want to eat. And maybe they'll still get picky. You let me know if you tried to keep them on a healthy path when they were very small and they still became these picky eaters. You let me know if that happened to you. But some parents, I've heard some parents who've had success with this saying that you have to, is a lifestyle that they have to get used to when they're very small. What can I say? I was 23 when I gave birth to Armani. Like now that I think about it, I was so young. And then with Zena, I was 27. I was a little older, a little bit more aware. And I do feel like I did better with Zena, even in terms of like me giving her more breast milk than I was able to do with Armani.
But Zena's a new case, as in like she's picky now. I feel like when she was a baby, she would eat anything.
I feel that way too. Yeah. She wasn't as picky when she was a baby, but then she grew up. But then again, I wasn't the most like, I don't know. I wasn't the most strict parent when it came to that, because I don't know. I really don't know. But now that my kids are older, I feel the pressure more so, because when they're little, you know, up until they're like 1, they're like drinking milk and like real purees of like beans, whatever, like really simple meals. But as they get older, then, you know, they need to start eating full course meals like we do. And you need to start introducing them to healthy things. But that it doesn't stop there. Now we have the conversation of the chemicals in all the foods. And so now that, you know, we had Lenny here the other day, which stay tuned for the vlog that's coming up, because we did record a vlog. We went to Whole Foods and we did a whole, you know, shopping with Lenny with us, so that you guys can see more or less how he shops,
how he thinks when it comes to food.
Right. So stay tuned for that.
Thanks, Nelly, for fucking up my life.
But, you know, now there's so much information about how there's so many things that aren't good for us in these foods, especially here in America, that I feel guilty all the time. I'm starting to feel guilty all the time about what my kids are eating, especially the things that they now enjoy to eat that now I know are not good for you.
And the thing is, it's so difficult because it's not just the things they eat, it's also the options we have.
Yeah.
Because I think he mentioned, I don't know if that was on camera or off camera, that when he went to like Europe, like the McDonald's over there is not like the McDonald's here. So it's like he didn't feel that bad eating it over there. But here is like everywhere you go, it's just trash. And then if you even think about going somewhere healthy, then you just look at the price and it's like, bro, why am I paying $20 for a leaf? Like right. That's why most people in this economy, that's why most people are just like, bro, chicken nuggets.
Yeah.
With the apples and the yogurt and the milk.
I mean, bro. Because let's say like when we were growing up, when we were growing up, our parents weren't so focused or so worried about the ingredients in the food. They were not. They were just doing the best that they could. And yeah, like we were talking about how we would eat when we were younger. I wasn't so terrible. Like my mom didn't let me, she never really bought like the sugary cereals. Like she would try to always stay the healthier route. But even then, it was a lot of like canned stuff, a lot of processed foods. It was still processed foods. She just tried to do the best she could. But now with all the dilemma with the processed foods and how bad it is like, and then you try to eliminate processed foods and how hard it is to eliminate that here. That's
so difficult. And also it's like, you think about how much you're going to spend to buy a meal, right? In let's say McDonald's, the most relevant. And then how much it costs you to cook a meal. And it's like, it's almost the same thing. So you're just like, bro, am I going to spend 3 hours cooking a meal or just go pick up?
It turns out, I guess, when you sit down, it turns out to be more money when you're eating out.
Yeah.
But sometimes in the heat of the moment, when you're in a rush and you need to do 50,000 things, fast food sounds like the solution. And I am in a space in my life where I start to feel guilty about this. Before, it wasn't so present with me. Like, it wasn't so, I don't know. I didn't feel so much guilt.
Yeah.
Now.
Well, because now you're aware.
Now I do. Now it's. But then what makes it difficult, again, as a millennial in this time and age, is the so many different hats that we have to wear. You know, the economy is ridiculous right now. Like everything is expensive. Housing is expensive. Food is expensive. And then try adding being a healthy mom. You try adding having your kids eat healthy every day to that list
with two different palate tastes. Because
the economy is the way it is and inflation is the way it is, and it's a nightmare. And it almost feels like there's no solution right now.
They all have, like, Armani doesn't eat what Zena eats. You don't eat what Armani eats. I don't eat what you eat. You don't eat what I eat. It's like,
I mean, it's not that. It's not that. You're making it sound.
When we go to like the healthy route. Yeah.
Yeah. It also takes time. You know, I feel I sometimes feel fortunate that I even have a little bit of your help sometimes, you know, because I can sit here and think about the women who maybe are married to this type of man who doesn't move a finger in the kitchen, and then they also have to work, and then they also have this pressure socially now of feeding their kids healthy things. Some people don't mind it. How do you do all of this?
Or maybe they do mind it and they just don't speak up.
I know I'm not the only parent. I know we're not the only parent stressing about food for our kids and making sure that we're giving them quality food.
I mean, some people just can't.
I know. And that's part of the struggle. You know, like now because of the economy, a lot of people are struggling financially. And it's very expensive to give your kids healthy food 7 days a week. So for us, what we've been doing is literally we do the most we can. When we go to the supermarket, the first aisles that we go through are like the fruits, the apples, the mangoes. My kids love fruits. So I try to have as many fruits as possible so that in the morning time, that's kind of like what they're having for breakfast, fruits mostly. And so we do the most we can, whenever we go food shopping. But then when that's done in the house, it's going downhill. After the healthy stuff we've bought that we were able to buy in that shopping spree that we did, or that small shopping spree that we did for food shopping, it's pretty much downhill after we can go food shopping again.
Yeah. And then that food goes bad so fast.
The fresh fruit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fresh everything. Because it's like food. When we go to the bakery, like, some supermarkets have like the bakery, and we will buy the fresh baked bread. Not saying that bread is good for you. But it's like 3 days later, it's bad, which I mentioned before. I feel like I mentioned on a podcast, is like, you don't know what's worse, whether the food that goes bad real quick, so is really good, or the food that stays good for a long time.
I know. Pick your poison. Which, yeah, when you don't have that type of money, and it hurts for you to spend money on things that rot in like 2 days. You literally start thinking, maybe I should buy the other one because it will last me a whole week and it won't go bad. It's a struggle. I can't. But
and even just staying in the topic of like struggling parents, this is more not related to food, but the whole like homeschool versus like going to school. Because this also ties into the food situation. Because let's say you're feeding your child good and you're not sending them a lunch, and they're eating whatever the school has, which is definitely not healthy. It's probably worse than fast food.
I guess, but
bro.
Yeah. It can be worse than fast food, can it?
When you're serving that much people every single day.
That's terrible. But I've heard that there's levels to that, depending on the school you go to.
Yeah, of course. City public schools probably are the worst. But then who has the money to afford private school?
That's crazy.
Like private, expensive ass schools.
So that's another struggle right now, that a lot of people, if they can and they have the luxury, because let's face it, not everybody has the luxury to homeschool. But a lot of parents, that's a conversation that's very prevalent right now, especially after COVID. And then with all of the political debates that are going on, and people believing that there's certain agendas in public schools, people are really starting to think about it.
Yeah, and all the bad things that are happening. I'm not going to mention what they are.
Right, in public schools and all that. Yeah, it's terrible. I've even thought about it.
We actually recently find out that the actual curriculum is only 3 hours long or 4 hours long.
When you're homeschooling, your kid doesn't have to do what the typical 8 hours that they do in school or whatever.
Which kind of makes sense, because they go to art, they go to like, not saying that at homeschool you don't do it. I'm sure you do that, but like gym and all these things.
You just don't have to. Your child just doesn't have to sit through that many hours in order when they're homeschooled.
When I learned, I was like, yo, that's kind of lit.
And I asked Armani, I was like, would you like to be homeschooled? And he was actually like really excited about that. I was like, yeah, but you know that you're not just going to be sitting around. Like you actually have to learn, and you have to listen to me. I would be your teacher. And he was
Nunez, can I use the bathroom?
He was like, I would love that. I was like, really? But I don't feel like I'm prepared for that at this point. I don't think that I have the mental capacity at this very moment to deal with homeschooling. But it is something that has crossed my mind, and that maybe at some point in my life I would go into. Who knows? Yeah. Maybe at some point I'll be able to have a tutor or something, because some people homeschool, but they don't actually teach every subject to their child. They have tutors who come in for whatever subject maybe the parent doesn't feel strongly about, or like they can teach it, and they have like a helper, a tutor who also helps with the education of the child. our comadre recently shared with us that she's going to try homeschooling this coming year. So that's exciting. I can't wait to see her journey. I can't wait for her to share, you know, how it goes for her. I'm very excited for her.
I would be like, if Timmy had 5 apples and he gave him 4, how many apples does he have left?
That should be very, very interesting. She's actually the first person who I personally know who's going to do this.
Yeah, most of the people that I hear doing it are like high income earners.
Yeah, or people that I don't know. It's just someone I follow online. You know, so this one really hits home. You know, it's very good to hear of someone you know personally doing something like this. I really admire you, Komai, for, you know, taking this on, because this is gonna be good. I can't wait. I can't wait for the stories. I can't wait to see how she feels about it, you know, once she starts doing it. But yeah, this is something else that I guess maybe can torment some parents. Maybe some parents might even feel guilty of the fact that they can't even do it, because
that's kind of lit to though, because when you think about like the money that we have to spend now, look at us, like both of our kids going to school. We talked about this, like we got to buy uniforms, we got to buy new sneakers and all the
just the school supplies
materials
and stuff. I mean, we won't have to buy uniforms and things like that, but we will still have to buy the materials, because I believe you have to buy the curriculum when you're homeschooling, which I don't think is that much. It's not that expensive. It really isn't. It's really just a matter of us
doing the research
and us having the time and, you know, the energy, being able to dedicate yourself to teaching your child.
And being a good teacher. Because, I mean, you can say that you want to teach them, but if you're not a good teacher.
Yes. I guess another issue or struggle us millennials have is shielding our kids from technology and what they watch, what they don't watch, how they're making sure we know that they're being influenced in the right ways and that the internet isn't getting in their head in the wrong way.
It's kind of, that shit is hard. Because like it's available everywhere.
You can control.
I mean, we control as much as we can.
You can control a lot of it at home. But then again, this is why a lot of parents are opting for homeschooling. Mm-hmm. Because it's like, I can control what my child watches. I can control what I teach them in my house. But once they go to school, they're exposed to so many things. Yeah. And if you as a parent don't control what your child watches and what they're learning out in the world in your home, they're going to bring that crap to school. And even though I'm trying to shield my child to having a childhood and having and trying to raise him as good as possible, your child is contaminating the rest of the kids. So this is why I also say, like, raising a kid back in the day, and it's still true, people used to say it takes a village to raise a child, and that still applies.
So what do you do? Like, let's say you homeschool through elementary school, which is K through 5. Like, do you keep going after 6?
You can. I guess it will depend at that. I think at that point it will depend on your child and you as a parent, how you feel. I think it would really depend on whether you feel like maybe your child needs some socializing, or maybe you feel
that would be my fear, like their social skills, like at that age, like if you keep going, like let's say from 6 to 12.
Well, when you're homeschooling a child, you're responsible for them socializing. So now that you've taken them out of school, you have to make sure.
What if your aunt's a social parent?
Well, you kind of have to, I don't know, sometimes go to the park, maybe go to like places where there's other kids and have your kids socialize. Because socializing is part of development.
But them kids are going to be in school.
Yeah, but you're going to be there. It's not like your child is going to be
people, though?
I don't know.
Maribel's like, oh shit, I hate people.
No, she doesn't. She just needs her time alone. But
no, but that's a true question. Like,
yeah, but she's not.
That must be difficult. Like 6 up. Like once they're becoming a teenager.
Yeah. And maybe at that point, the child would even maybe ask to be like in a regular school. I think it really just depends on each child. I think each child will have a different experience based on how the parents live.
That's like going
because
to
there's
school.
Also kids who, you know, have very active parents and have parents who now, you know, it's very popular to see some parents, you know, live on the road, like in these RVs, and just they travel because they work from home or they have like remote jobs. So I think it really depends on the lifestyle of the family that kid is in, that kid is raised in. Because at that point, it might just be so normal for them that they might not feel the need to go to a school. There's ways. I've heard of communities like that do homeschooling and how that community kind of comes together sometimes, and they do events, you know, and they get together.
Oh, yeah. Like trip to... Yeah, because then I guess you just start joining groups of
right,
like,
of other parents who do the same thing. So it's really not something that, I mean, past years, it wasn't something I guess that was so popular. But as the years pass by here in the United States, it's becoming a more and more popular thing.
I'm assuming that the education system probably makes that so difficult for you to like start homeschooling, you know, because they probably work based on like funding of how many kids they have attending.
Well, there's
like
a process for you to remove them from the school. You have to
Yeah.
do like a proper letter, you know, but it's not difficult.
Yo, I
But
want
it
my
is a
son
process.
back.
But it is a process. You have to go through a process so that they don't come after you because your child isn't attending school. Before we keep going with this podcast, we have to say that today's podcast is sponsored by Toto Studios. Toto Studio, a studio located in Yonkers, New York, for creators by creators.
So for those of you who have a project coming up, whether that be a video project, a photo project, a campaign for a clothing line, a product line, we are all inclusive. We do video, photo, and if you have your own photographer, videographer, and you just need studio space, you can book us via your space or shoot us a DM on Instagram
at Book Toto Studio.
Back to the episode.
Thank you to Toto Studios for sponsoring us.
How nice of them.
So yeah, back to technology and the troubles that us millennial parents are going through. I feel like there's a lot of selfishness sometimes, you know, when it comes to the adults. There's a lot of irresponsible adults on the internet that feel that the internet just belongs to them and that there's no kids on the internet. How naive, right? And who scream loudly, you know, that it is our job to raise our children and not theirs. I have so many things to say about that, but, you know, it just says, to me, it just screams selfish. Because at the end of the day, would we live in a perfect world? That would be a perfect statement to say, but we don't. And we know the struggles that us parents are facing, and we know how much millennial parents are struggling to have 1, 2, 3 jobs to keep a roof over their head, and how much we have to work and hustle to become better than we were yesterday, and how much life has just hit us with so many different things, and we are barely keeping afloat. For you to be so cynical and say, and just brush it off like your irresponsibility of what you're putting online is literally just, it's not your problem.
Yeah.
As if the kids who are the future aren't a priority. That's just how I feel about it. And I get it. It is our jobs as parents to filter as much of the crap as possible from our kids' lives. I get that part. But the reality is there's a lot of parents out there who don't have the luxury to be able to sit there 24/7 watching what their kids are doing, who have to go to work for 10, 12 hours and leave their kids with a babysitter. And unfortunately, they can't be there present with their child all the time. And they're surrounded by so much toxicity and so many other irresponsible parents whose kids are going into these schools and are going to these playgrounds and are teaching the kids all the other kids what they've seen at home or what they've seen online. So no, it is not just the responsibility of that single parent to raise that child. It is all of our responsibilities to make sure that our kids are growing in a good environment.
I got no words. That was good. That was great.
You know, that statement, when I hear adults of any industry, but, you know, I've mostly heard it from the entertainment industry.
Yeah.
Many adults saying, like, it's not my responsibility to raise your child. Oh, okay. So just put your crap out there in the open, knowing that anyone can watch it at any point. And even though these social media platforms have age requirements, we all know we lie. We even did it when we opened up, you know, our first social medias. And there's no way to control that. There's literally no way.
There's ways to control. Like, some parents do need to wake up a little bit and not just, because some parents would be like, here's a phone, do whatever you want. And I think it is a responsibility of the parents to at least know like the limits, or know like, okay, I deleted this app, why is it re-downloaded? And like, you know, put boundaries like that. Because some parents are just like, here's a phone, you're 10 years old, and
I just don't want to hear you.
Just be free.
Yeah.
And it's just, there's mad creeps online. So it's like, you never know who your child is talking to. And just because you think, oh, they're just like on Instagram or TikTok, and then you got a freaking weirdo with like a funny picture talking to your child that you don't even know. Yeah. It's like, just be a little bit more aware.
Yeah. Again, I agree with the fact that we need to be aware as parents. But I also know that this is not a perfect world. And there's parents who, as much as they would want to spend all that time with their kid, they just can't. Yeah. Because of the circumstances, because of how much they need to work, because of just financial crisis. So why can't we just not be so selfish and just be more aware of what we're putting out online, just for the sake of the future? I feel if more people would think that way, the internet would be a little less toxic. Just a little, maybe just a little. If we were just a little bit more self-conscious of what we put out.
Some wishful thinking. Not saying I don't have faith in humanity.
I mean, sometimes you just have to say these things because people don't realize that change starts with each one of us. It's not up to, I don't know, fulano over there who you don't know, and it's not up to everybody else but you. It's up to each one of us. We all make a difference in our own ways.
The way is like so messed up because the thing is like, these people blow up through entertainment because the bad shit that they promote is what gets them there. So it's like, and they grow up so fast that once they're up there, it's just like, oh, fuck, I'm just going to keep putting it out because that's what got me here.
Even if half of the people who are watching and are giving them the views are looking at them and saying, what is wrong with this person? Even if half of the people but they're still looking. Yeah. They're still there, giving them. What I'm saying
is, it's not just the person; it's also like the entertainment industry.
Yeah,
like,
which is very toxic.
It just promotes
for sure. That's one of the reasons why I kind of got a lot. I used to think when I was younger that was like the goal, like to belong to Hollywood. and now when I think about that, I'm like, hell no. Hell no. I do not. That is not what I desire. And now I understand many things. I've always been a believer, and I grew up in a Catholic Christian family. And, you know, I would always pray like for God to like guide me. And I know my mom always prays for me. And now I understand like a lot of things make sense to me. Like if you don't have any faith, if you don't believe in God, you know, that's really personal. But now I understand why God I wanted to go this way, but he like made me go this way. It was, and now that I'm older, I'm thankful that I wasn't able to go the route I wanted to go because it makes sense. That's not what I would have wanted. I would have not been happy
at all.
Me
as your professional everything.
God has a plan for everything.
Jessica would have had a hard time dealing with them people.
God has a plan for everything. Believe me. We have to trust him sometimes. Even if it doesn't make sense to us at the moment and we feel like, why me? Why is this not happening for me? God has a better plan. You just need to have faith. You need to believe in him. You need to pray to him to guide you the right way and just wait because he will do what he has to do for you. And you have to trust the process.
For sure. But that's it for today's video. Take it away.
What? You don't know how to close a video? Okay. That's it for today's podcast, you guys. Thank you so much for watching or listening. If you're on any of our audio platforms, don't forget to leave us your reviews. It really helps us out. If you're here on YouTube, don't forget to give us a like. If you've gotten to the end of the video and you enjoyed, leave us your comments down below. Share some of your struggles with us as a millennial parent. And that's it for today's podcast, you guys. Thank you so much for watching or listening. Until next time.
Peace.